For this week's tour, we're going to be starting at the shade garden so I can show you what's going on over here. Uh, so far, we have azaleas that are waking up. The rhododendrons are also putting on a bunch of new growth. That's what this is. This is right here, and then there's a third one down there. Um, this azalea was on our property when we moved here, so I literally just transplanted it into this bed. You also see quite a bit of daffodils and a native rose that I planted here. This side of this flower bed gets more sun than over here does. These daffodils were in a mix from Longfield Gardens. Um, Most of the daffodils uh, are yellow, but there are the occasional whites. So far we have hellebores that are still blooming and this native azalea in this beautiful, bright, sunshiny yellow color. Have some other azaleas in here. The dogwoods behind are leafing out and blooming. And then that's a native azalea right here that will bloom shortly. Those are not planted by me. They were here when I got here. They're part of the natural landscape. So I just let them do their thing. You will see bleeding hearts, hostas, heucheras, there's heucherellas, there's astilbe, and a host of other shade plants. Hostas are still unfurling and waking up. This is one plant I wanted to show you. This is the Stairway to Heaven Jacob's Ladder. It's meant for a shade garden and it blooms those beautiful blooms. It's from Bailey's Nursery. Uh, Another rhododendron. These roses are all budding up, getting ready to bloom another couple of weeks. The peonies will be here before we know it. This is my bowl of beauty peony, and it is all ready. I have some foxgloves that are also ready. But another thing that you'll notice this week, besides the azaleas blooming, are some of the irises have started to bloom. Those are cemetery irises. This bed is all fulled out and ready to go. I need to get this fountain fixed so that I can get it working. It needs a new pump. I've tried like 5 different ones from Amazon and seem to still be getting the size wrong. So there is a place that I purchased the fountain at. I'm going to see if I can get one ordered through them. This is a Fothergiller plant. I love the little bottle brush spikes at the top, and it's loaded with blooms. Another thing that's blooming over here is this Ruby Tears Weeping Crabapple tree. I'm going to get a cinder block and tie string onto all the branches that are wanting to go straight instead of down, and the weight of that will force them to go down, and then next year we won't have that problem. You can see more roses again, and they're all getting ready for their show. Roses start to bloom around end of April, early part of May. Um, a lot of things have come out of dormancy, have put on leaves, and are either blooming or getting ready to bloom. You can see irises are coming. See that bloom stalk? Oh, look it. This is called Cimarron Rose. It is a Small bearded iris is one of the dwarf varieties. It's another bloom stalk right there. So this is the first colored iris that has bloomed in the yard. This is also going to be a good year for the clematises. This one is on one of these uh, frames that I won. I won 6 obelisks in a giveaway, and this is one of them. And you can see it is covered with bud. That's a Jacmani clematis. It'll come out blooming shortly. I also want to show you this lilac shrub. This is a new age lilac shrub from Star Roses and Plants. Isn't this stunning? And y'all, it smells divine. This is the first year that I'm getting such a show of it, and the growth on top is about as tall as it gets. These are meant to be smaller sized shrubs. Look at that coral bark Japanese maple behind it, and this Yoshino weeping cherry tree. I'm going to insert footage of it showing you when it was in its full bloom. More Cimarron rose irises blooming here. And a lot of the others are ready. See all the foliage. I am not sure how many of you remember me uh, moving this tree in order to plant my dad's tree, but you see, it has survived and it is blooming profusely. So, so pretty. And you can see the snowball bushes have begun to turn to white. Last time they were small, clustered green blooms, and now they are full of white balls. Why they're called snowball bushes. Here's another of those Japanese Kieras. Here is a blue butterfly, Scabiosa. I know I'm going to be asked what this shrub is. It is an ivory halo dogwood from Bailey's Nursery. No. One of my favorite additions to the garden this year is this Ruby Tears Weeping Redbud. Yes, I have two. There's one over by the other fountain area, and then this one. I'm going to give you a close up of the blooms, but I wanted to pull out and let you see just how stunning this tree is. It is literally covered in blooms. They start out this color and then fade to this lighter pink color. And all along, it is gorgeous. And then the foliage will eventually be this darker burgundy esque color. Now, there used to be yellow hyacinths through here, as well as daffodils, but those have gone over. Another ivory halo dogwood. Now, here is a Ruby Falls weeping redbud. As with all redbuds, you get the blooms first and then the leaves come out. This is its second year in the garden, and I'm pleased with what I see. It's going to get better and better as time moves on. I'm waiting for this weigela, it's a variegated weigela, to bloom, and then I'm going to cut it back and force it to bush out and be more shrub-like as opposed to this thing that it's doing. Isn't this beautiful, y'all? And I'm not trying to be vain. It's just it's really pretty this year. I also wish I could explain to you how I feel getting out of the depression I was in, and it's almost like I'm seeing the world for the first time. This is just therapy and exercise and getting enough sleep and doing the work so that I can feel healthy. Here's a rogue tulip. Look at the fringes on this thing. Isn't this beautiful? I feel like everything just looks so much prettier this year, um, and more vibrant. And yeah, I'm not on any meds, not that I object to it, but I'm just saying this is all just Claudia being me for the first time in years, and it feels good. This Japanese maple here is also leafed out. That's my Big Bertha oak leaf hydrangea. I'm going to actually prune it this year. I know you typically don't prune it, but I want to get more of a uniform shape for it. So I'm going to do that this year, but after it blooms. Last tour, I showed you all these magnolias in full bloom, but they have gone over and are leafing out, and they have just a couple of blooms each. Just stunning. Our last tour, this double weeping peach had just buds, and in a week's time, they're almost done. But I thought I would give you a close up of what the blooms look like and the fact that it's going to just be leaves here shortly. This is one of my absolute favorite daffodils in the yard because you know peach is my favorite color and it has that peachy center. This is a dappled willow shrub. I love the colorations on it. Just beautiful. You can tell it's going to be a good rose year. This is a eastern redbud. It's almost done with its blooms. And behind it is a Lady Banks rose. She is doing the absolute most this year. So, so stunning. What's nice about her is she blooms all along her stems and she's just covered, and still more blooms to come. I planted her here with the intention of it draping over the porch, not realizing that she gets to be almost 40 feet tall if I let her. I don't. After it blooms each year, I prune it back some. Here's the Japanese Kiara up close. Isn't it beautiful? It's a lovely shade of yellow. It's going to be a good lily year, too. One of the mistakes I made in building my garden is I planted all the shrubs and perennials first. I planted all the shrubs and perennials first, and then eventually added trees. So the trees are younger than the shrubs, which means that I'm getting some show, but not as big a show as when these trees mature in the next couple of years. So each year it's going to become more and more um, of a show in this garden. These white irises are once again cemetery irises and they bloom first. Then the colored irises start, in my yard, that is. This Reeve spirea. And then this flowering plum. It's almost done flowering. My native Piedmont azaleas are beginning to bloom, and they bloom all along the creek. And then these are Carolina allspice, those brown blooms that are also getting ready to bloom. These are both native species that were here and grew wild, so I let them and incorporated them as part of the garden. This one is getting ready to bloom as well. This garden is a lot fuller than our last time through. The Japanese maple has leafed out and will fill in that spot nicely over time. The shrubs and hydrangeas are putting on leaves, not fully yet. Durvilla has fully leafed out. And then the daffodils and irises in this bed are giving us a show. More ivory halo dogwoods. Look at the textures and colors here. I wanted to show you these daffodils here. Isn't that pretty? I added another Japanese maple there so that this bed has some contrasting foliage because there's a lot of green and yellow. The Japanese maples next to the birdhouse, and this one will offer some contrast in this bed here. This is the New Age Syringa or the New Age Lilac White. And she is also a showstopper. I moved her in the fall and she took a hit because we went through an extremely hot fall. And so I had to prune her back, but you can see she's springing back from here, and she still bloomed. So she is happy. This is a pretty daffodil as well. All them little different layers. Here's one also. By the time we come back through next time, these clematises will be open, because I think this one will be open tomorrow. There are peonies that are up and raring to go, roses that are up and raring to go. This Japanese maple leafed out since the last time. Sorry, y'all, I've got frogs in my throat today because of the pollen. Pollen count has been atrocious in Georgia this year. We've had some record days since they've started counting the pollen. We've had two of the highest counts this year alone. Once all these daffodil um, leaves die off, you'll be able to see all these shrubs and things that are in here better. They're all young, so not big enough to overpower them, but in a year or two, you won't even notice the daffodil blooms at this point in the garden season. And that's stunning. Now, this over here is called woodland phlox right here. That color, that periwinkle purpley blue, is stunning. And you don't see it often in the garden. So I it was meant to be a shade plant, and I tried it there and it loved it there. I dug it up to put it in the shade and it died in the shade and still is thriving here. So I'm going to multiply it and spread it throughout the garden in sun areas, since it's letting me know it can tolerate the sun. Let's get you a close up of this. Get you a close up of this Japanese Kiara. Here's another view of that ruby tears weeping crabapple. And then next to it is a Beni Shishingi Japanese maple. Now, this lilac I got from Aldi years ago, and this year is the best that it's done. It too smells delightful, and I love this shot right here. More of that Japanese Kiara. And even the pathway between my office and this driveway bed, I like to have planted, and it looks good from the back as well as the front. This is a lemon cypress. It smells heavenly when you touch it. This is my Peggy Martin rose, or as they would like to call it, the Katrina rose. And I am working on getting it to grow across the front of my office area. I got it tied up in a very rudimentary way right now, but it will eventually become what I want it to be all across the front. Do you remember all those hyacinths that were across? They're now all done. More irises getting ready to bloom. And the first rose bloom of the season goes to Lottie's Love right here. Well, no, the Lady Banks rose, but I'm talking about shrub roses. It's beautiful. There are two of them in this bed. One here, and then the other is right here. More Japanese Kiera. And then, of course, this other Japanese maple, the coral bark, has also leafed out. Thank you so much for joining me today as we took a walk around the garden to see what's blooming this week. As always, happy gardening.